there's a new term out called productivity paranoia. Just full warning, I'm going to have a lot of juice in this segment too, because this makes me angry. I cannot stand weak leadership. I can't stand it. It's like putting lukewarm water in your mouth. Who likes that? Microsoft has a brand new study of corporate workplaces out. And I want to reveal some of this to you. The big finding was a perception gap between employees and leaders about hybrid work. And their concern is that this could turn up the apple cart or whatever, turn it over, whatever I'm trying to say here today. So this is interesting. 87% of surveyed workers say, I'm productive. But 12% of leaders say they're confident their employees are productive. Wah, wah, wah. That's what's going on. This is a big problem. 87% of workers, yeah, man, I'm productive. I'm doing a good job. 12% of employers, bosses, managers, leaders, no, I don't think so. Uh-oh. And this is what they're calling productivity paranoia. This is what Microsoft has coined this term. They surveyed 20,000 people at companies in 11 different countries. So this is a sizable study. All right. This is enough data that this is pretty concrete stuff. And this ought to concern you leaders, and it ought to concern those of you that aren't in leadership position. One of the causes, according to the survey, is the decline in what we've all heard, if you've been in the workforce for any amount of time, called management by walking around, right? It's where your leader walks around, kind of scans over the cubes or walks in your office and all that kind of nonsense. So in other words, out of sight, out of mind is what has been happening with all the remote and hybrid work. And you take a leader who's weak, a leader who doesn't know how to communicate, and that out of sight, out of mind becomes out of sight, always on my mind. You see what just happened there? They actually start getting paranoid and they start freaking out and they're wondering if you're productive because they're worried about their butt being on the line or whatever. And they can't see you, therefore they begin to not trust you. And weak leaders are very susceptible to this. And this creates a cycle of distrust and discouragement and, quite frankly, people leaving. The survey found a lack of trust in employee productivity is more common among managers whose teams are continuing to work away from the traditional office. So I just described that. But here's what's interesting. The number of weekly meetings, according to all these people that are using this Microsoft software, was up 153% since the start of the pandemic. About 42% of the meeting attendees are multitasking by sending email and other messages. Exactly. This is why I hate meetings. I have a profound hatred of meetings. Anybody who works with me on my team knows instead of a meeting, I like just popping up next to their desk. Poor Alex. He'll be at his desk working away. He's got his headphones on. He's in deep work. And all of a sudden, bing, there I am. Right? But it takes less than a minute or two to get what I need to go. Well, but see, if you don't do that kind of stuff, everybody's got to have a meeting and we spend an hour discussing something that could probably be accomplished in 5 minutes. Now, am I being overly general right now? Yes, but I'm also making a point. My good friend Pat Lencioni wrote a book called Death by Meeting. Every leader needs to read it. Now, if everybody's meeting all the time, but 42% of everybody is multitasking, they're not really paying attention in the meeting, and they're trying to look busy. And this is a new phenomenon because people don't want to be burned out, but they don't want to be fired. It's called live action role playing. Anne Helen Peterson studied this, and she's an author, and she basically called it live action role playing, where basically people are trying to create busy work at key times to make it look like they're engaged. Satya Nadella, a Microsoft CEO, who was talking recently in London in a webcast about the findings, said, this is a direct quote, Work as we know it has structurally gone through a massive change. I think we have to reground ourselves in some sense on what the fundamental meaning of work is, and I think he's right. And so I'm going to add something to this, okay? And this is for everybody, but primarily leaders. If you're watching and listening to this show, here's what you need to understand. We are going through a seismic shift in work, and if you want to lead effectively, you better change your focus to results versus rhythms. Oh my gosh, that's so good. I'm going to say it again and unpack it. Results versus rhythms. Here's what I mean. When you've got hybrid workers or remote workers, what happens is out of sight, out of mind. We've been discussing it. So a weak leader and the Jamie Dimons, of the world, they're like, well, we're gonna measure their keystrokes, and we're gonna spy in on their computer, and we're gonna track their fobs to see if they are where they say they are, and all this stuff. This is all about rhythms. How long are you on your computer? How long are you in the office? And it makes me feel better that maybe you're being productive, as opposed to focusing on results. If I'm focusing on results versus rhythms, now I've got a worker who's engaged, who's driving results because they're the results that they care deeply about, and I don't have to track them. Honestly, I just communicate with them, love them, and leave them alone. Let me say it again. That's brilliant leadership strategy. I communicate clearly what is expected of them. This is what you do, how you do it, and the results that we want, and when we want them. Duh. All right? Now I'm going to love them, encourage them, check in with them, make sure they have everything they need, and then I'm going to leave them alone. And by the way, the ultimate measurement is not how many hours they spend in the office or at home, or how many keystrokes, or how many freaking meetings they sat in, or any of that other garbage. What matters is, are they delivering the results the right way and at the right time? Sometimes I say something on this show, and I'm astounded at how freaking simple it is. I didn't say anything brilliant there. And yet, leaders aren't focusing on this. Leaders, what are the results? That means the right results and at the right time. Deliver those, please. I'm getting up above the argument of in the office, all remote, hybrid. I'm getting above that because that's what's important. And we figured that out first, leaders. And you as a worker, if you could get your leader to communicate that to you, now we can worry about remote, hybrid, full-time in the office. But it's like, that's what we got to figure out. And so we've got leaders that are all about productivity measurements and metrics, and I'm not against those. I'm not saying throw those out. What I'm saying is it's created this paranoid productivity. It's created this, what I call nannyship. When my wife and I, we have 3 kids, they're all teenagers now. When they were little, just like every other parent in this time period, we had monitors, right? And so we're sitting downstairs, and we got baby monitors on all 3 cribs are in the rooms. Nathan's square in the middle of that right now. I mean, Nathan is part-time CIA right now because he wants his kids to go to sleep. I get it. But if Nathan is treating his employees that way, whoa, we're way out of kilter here. So stop with the paranoia. It's not about rhythms. It's about delivering results, leaders. Come on.